Well, there is breaking news coming in from the United States. In fact, let's go across to NDTV senior managing editor Nikunj Garg. Nikunj, over to you.
Well, yes, Osama, one big piece of news that we can break for our viewers right now, and that is that Tahawwur Rana, Mumbai 2611's key conspirator in custody of the US authorities in Los Angeles right now, whose extradition was publicly announced by President Donald Trump in just 24 hours back in a joint press conference with Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi. His extradition to India seems to have gotten delayed a bit right now. So earlier we were expecting that any moment the National Investigation Agency's teams, the NIA, remember, is probing the principal case of conspiracy of Mumbai 2611, would land in United States of America, coordinate with Department of Justice, United States of America, and take back Tahawwur Rana. Unfortunately, the piece of news that we are going to break for our viewers is not so heartening. Unfortunately, that is not going to happen in right earnest right now. It will take a few more weeks because Tahawwur Rana has filed a final appeal on humanitarian grounds, I am given to understand, in a US appeals forum. Remember, Rana's appeal has been declined by the US Supreme Court. His extradition has been cleared by the Department of Justice, Government of United States of America. However, there is one humanitarian appeal that was left pending, which he is now exhausting. So he is using every trick in the book, every arrow in his quiver, and trying to stop that extradition back to India. However, India would continue to chase this case. India would continue to tail this case as hard as India has done in the last 17 odd years since the time Mumbai 2611, that dastardly terror strike, played out on the city of Mumbai, financial capital of India. I once again reiterate that the breaking piece of news only on NDTV at this moment, we can inform our viewers that Tahawwur Rana, key Mumbai 2611 conspirator, in custody of United States authorities in a Los Angeles jail for multiple number of years, whose extradition was publicly announced by President Donald Trump just 24 hours back in presence of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, will not be extradited at this stage to India because of certain legal and jurisprudence matters, because Rana has gone ahead and finally tried to exhaust his last available option. Now, this extradition, as our viewers know by now, was earlier cleared by the United States of Supreme Court. Supreme Court of United States, I beg your pardon, and the Department of Justice, which that decision was announced by President Donald Trump in a press conference where Indian press corps was also present, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi was also addressing that joint press conference. Osama?
Right, Nikunj, as far as the extradition process is concerned, what are the typical hurdles and timelines that are involved in such extradition cases? And this is a high-profile case, mind you, because how do we look at it, especially with respect to the Prime Minister Modi's visit, and then, like you mentioned, there was a public announcement by the US President as well. How should we look at this particular hurdle at this point of time?
Well, we should take it as seriously as we are supposed to, but I don't think we should get disheartened by this. Yeah. India shouldn't get disheartened by this, or India shouldn't take it as any kind of stumbling block. Extraditions or deportations traditionally are tricky, vexed, and tedious processes. I have covered them across the globe, from Argentina to United Kingdom to United States right now, where I'm reporting from Washington, D.C., and they always are a lengthy, long-drawn process. But the point there is that the host country, or the country that wants to receive a criminal accused of any kind of wrongdoing, has to be patient. And India has been patient very valiantly, very stoutly, very robustly. India has fought this extradition battle in multiple forums right up to the United States Supreme Court and won the case. So that clearly goes on to show you the strength of the Indian case, that India hasn't taken a step back ever in this legal battle, spanning nearly 2 decades now. Remember, this was 17 years back that dastardly terror strike, killing hundreds on the streets of Mumbai, and people of multiple nationalities in our financial capital took place. Finally, at the apex of the American political authority, the United States President, none less than the United States President, Mr. Donald Trump, announced that Tahawwur Rana would be sent back to India. In his typical fashion, in his characteristic fashion, we are deporting a bad guy back to India, announced Mr. Trump, while Mr. Narendra Modi was also present with him in that press conference, in that joint press conference after their lengthy delegation-level talks. Now, we can report to our viewers that at this point in time, that entire process seems to have gotten delayed a bit. And this is because that despite the United States Supreme Court declining that extradition rejection request from Tahawwur Rana and approving India's request for extradition of Tahawwur Rana to India, there is a last stumbling block, there is a last throw of dice, there is last use of every available remedy by Tahawwur Rana, filing an appeal in an appeals forum on humanitarian grounds for non-extradition of his to India, to Indian shores.
Right, Nikunj sir, as far as diplomatic efforts are concerned, and this is beyond diplomacy between India and the United States. We've seen the kind of relationship that the United States President Donald Trump shares with the Indian Prime Minister. Having said that, how do diplomatic relations between the two countries impact such decisions, and especially with respect to Tahawwur Rana's extradition now?
Well, obviously, that will have a large bearing, Osama. The diplomatic ties between any particular country would have a large bearing. But remember, these are democracies. We are not dealing with any kind of an autocratic regime which can probably take a faster decision on such matters. Both India and United States have very independent, robust, functioning judiciaries, and therefore the entire process has to be played out in the courtrooms. The entire legal play has to be enacted. Entire legal muster has to be passed. That's why I said right from the First District Appeals Court to the United States Supreme Court, right close to a period of over 15 years, now nearing 2 decades, India has very stoutly fought this case. India has very stoutly carried out this legal battle at every possible legal forum. So diplomatic ties are on one side. They will obviously have a positive or a negative bearing to begin with, but once the matter lands in the judicial court, that ball has to be played there only in the judicial courts. So therefore, that's what is happening currently also. And as I said, that we won that case right up to the United States Supreme Court, and United States Supreme Court sided with India and declined Rana's appeal against approval of his extradition to India, and said that he must be extradited to India. Diplomatically, quite clearly, Department of Justice moved quickly on India's request and post-US Supreme Court's decision, and President Donald Trump, none less than the apex of the American political authority, announced that decision that we would be transferring Tahawwur Rana very, very shortly to India. However, that seems to have hit a fresh hurdle currently, and it appears that on a humanitarian ground he has fought, and he has finally posted an appeal whose fate also would be decided in a matter of few weeks. But currently, I would say that we will have to, our wait got a bit longer in this case.
Yes, Nikunj sir, finally, we understand Rana's extradition case and how it influences broader discussions around counter-terrorism, cooperation and judicial collaboration between the two countries, especially India and the United States. What I want to understand from you, will this have any sort of implication for that relationship that we share?
Not at all, not at all. In fact, I would say that this is something that is in the ambit of relationship. However, the relationship does not impact it, because look, you cannot have a relationship with the American judicial system, just as the Americans can't have a relationship with the Indian judicial system. Both the countries are democracies, both have large spawning judiciaries which function completely independently of the executive branch, and whose decisions can't be influenced by the government of the day, their like or dislike. So that, as I said, right from the word go, once he was arrested and in the custody of the prosecutors, fell under the remit of the judicial approach or the judicial confines, where the administration had only a facilitator's role to play. You can get a prosecutor appointed quickly. Department of Justice can help you tide over that entire situation in a courtroom, can get the case listed probably using a bit of back-channel diplomacy, citing the national or international importance of the case. However, beyond that, there's hardly anything that they can do, and you have to prove your case, the strength of your case beyond doubt in a foreign court of law, in a foreign jurisdiction. And that's the completely tricky part of it. As I said, I've seen these cases playing out in Latin America, in continental Europe, in United Kingdom, in United States of America. They remain the most tricky and most tedious cases to be fought. Remember, you are fighting on a foreign jurisdiction. The individual case accused is fighting either in his native jurisdiction or in a place or region familiar to him. And your processes will be completely delivered or dealt with the foundations of a functioning government process. That's not the case with the accused person. So therefore, they will always remain vexed, and there will always be multiple layers of appeals, and there will always be multiple layers of counters to that. And the cases would be fought right up to the top court of that particular country. In this case, US Supreme Court has sided with India's case, has said that India stands on a firm case that Rana must be extradited to Indian shores to face the full might of the legal justice in India. And as I said, that finally, from the side of the US administration and the Department of Justice, it was announced by none less than the President of the United States of America. However, as I said, the judiciary functions completely independent of the executive branch, and they would allow the individual person to exhaust all his appeals before they arrive at a final decision.
All right, Nikunj Garg there. Thank you very much for getting us this big breaking, NDTV's big news break from Washington, D.C., Tahawwur Rana's extradition. It has been delayed, and the wait for Rana has now got a little longer. This was the big breaking news that Nikunj Garg got us from Washington, D.C. In fact, let's also listen in to what Donald Trump had earlier said on Tahawwur Rana's extradition.
The United States and India will be working together like never before to confront the threat of radical Islamic terrorism, a threat all over the world, actually. Today, I'm pleased to announce that my administration has approved the extradition of one of the plotters and one of the very evil people of the world, and having to do with the horrific 2008 Mumbai terrorist attack, to face justice in India. So he's going to be going back to India to face justice. We're giving a very violent man, it seems to me. I mean, I don't know that he's been convicted yet or will be, but let's assume he's a pretty violent person. We're giving him back to India immediately, and there are more to follow because we have quite a few requests. So we work with India on crime, and we want to make it good for India, and it's very important. So that kind of a relationship is very important to us.